She misses you, not just once in a while, every single day. She's holding her phone right now. Your name. It's right there on the screen. She wants to text you. She wants to break the silence. But she won't, because she's scared, not of you, not of rejection, but of appearing weak. She can't show you that you matter, because in her world, needing a man means losing power, and she'd rather suffer in silence than give up control. That silence, it's not peace, it's a battlefield. She's thinking about you, watching you, obsessing over you, but pride is her cage. And you? You're the test she refuses to admit she's failing. If you've ever asked yourself why she ghosted, why she grew cold, or why she seems to post only when you stop chasing, this video is your answer. Stay locked in. This isn't another feel-good talk. This is reality, the version most won't say out loud. You've been told to pursue, to show effort, to prove yourself. But she's sitting back, letting you sweat, waiting to see how much of yourself you'll hand over before you break. And she does it. Silently. Because silence is the most brutal weapon women have mastered. And the scariest part? You'll never hear the explosion. You'll just feel the aftermath. Confusion, pain, self-doubt. She'll pretend she's moved on while checking your profile 10 times a day. She'll post pictures, cryptic quotes, selfies, not for herself, for you, to remind you of what you lost, even though she never let you have it. So today, we break the cycle. If you're ready to take back your self-respect, control your emotions, and stop being manipulated by mixed signals, this is your turning point. Comment Stoic Mind if you're done chasing silence and ready to build strength. Number 1. Her ego fights her feelings. She wants love. She wants connection. She wants to feel safe and seen, but she doesn't want to lose. She's been conditioned to associate love with losing, to see vulnerability as weakness, to believe that if she lets herself truly feel, she'll be abandoned. She's trained herself to resist the very thing she craves. So when she feels a deep emotional pull towards you, the kind that could change her life, she retreats. Not because you did anything wrong, not because you're not enough, but because her ego steps in, whispering lies. If he knows how much you care, he'll use it against you. This is where most men fail. They believe they have to reassure her, chase her, show her they're not a threat. But in doing so, they confirm her fears, that she's in control. The only way to handle a woman trapped in her ego is to become untouchable. Not cold, not cruel, but centered, grounded. She needs a man who doesn't need her. A man who can feel everything but react to nothing. You have to master your own mind, so her emotional chaos doesn't disrupt your mission. You have to become the calm in her storm, not the man dragged under by her waves. And this isn't just about her, it's about you. Every second you spend trying to fix a woman who's scared to feel is a second stolen from your purpose. Every moment you chase her love is a moment you abandon your own. You must build your life so powerfully that she either rises to meet you or watches you rise without her. This means waking up early, training your body like your life depends on it. Because it does. Your mind follows your muscles. Strength is clarity. Discipline is peace. This means building your income, creating options, learning new skills, mastering silence, and surrounding yourself with men who elevate you, not drain you. When you become undeniable, her ego has two choices: surrender or disappear. And if she disappears, you win anyway. Because you've built a world where her presence is a bonus, not your air supply. She may test you, ignore you, post photos, send half-hearted texts, disappear for days. But if your self-worth remains unshaken, you become unforgettable. This is the life-changing truth. She doesn't need another man to chase her pride. She needs a man who reminds her of what it looks like to rise above it. She builds walls and paints them with strength, independence, and detachment. But inside she's terrified. Terrified that loving you will strip her armor away, that depending on someone else will leave her open to being left, like maybe she saw in her father's silence, or her mother's tears, or her own past heartbreak. So she replaces truth with performance. She curates a version of herself online that screams, "I'm over it." But her search history, her old saved messages, her late-night songs betray her. She wants to be wanted, but she's too scared to be vulnerable. And every time you chase her after she pulls away, you validate the idea that she's the prize and you're the pursuit. But a man who knows his value doesn't pursue validation. He projects it. That's what changes her. Not your compliments, not your consistency, but your conviction. A conviction that says, "I know who I am, with or without you." And when you live like that, when you train like your future depends on it, work like you're building a legacy, read like you're preparing for war, you become the man she dreams of but can't reach. Not because you're cruel, but because you're no longer available to chaos. A man of value doesn't wait for a woman's clarity. He creates his own. He doesn't sit in confusion when someone ghosts him. He refocuses. He doesn't beg to be chosen. He chooses himself daily, and she will notice. When you stop reacting, she'll start doubting. Doubting if she made the right move, if you've moved on, if she was ever as powerful in your world as her ego made her believe. But by then, it won't matter, because you'll be gone. Not just physically, mentally. You'll be so locked in on your craft, your gains, your purpose, that her silence won't even register as a threat. You'll see it for what it is, a symptom of fear, not indifference. And you'll respect her fear, but you won't feed it. You'll move forward, slowly, powerfully, without explanation. Because the man she really wants isn't the one who sends flowers after she ghosts him. It's the man who walks away and becomes everything she thought only existed in dreams. Your discipline becomes her mystery. Your peace becomes her regret. And your growth becomes her lesson. The same woman who left you unread will one day read every post, watch every story, analyze every glance. Not because you tried to get her back, but because you stopped trying at all, and you redirected all that energy into becoming the kind of man no woman can forget. And the more you rise, the more she'll feel it, not in her ego, but in her gut. The part of her that knew you were different, the part that's now haunted by the silence she created and you mastered. This is the truth that frees you. You don't need her love. You need your purpose. You don't need her reply. You need your results. And when you put yourself first, the world, and sometimes even she, will follow. Number 2. The power shift when you go silent. And when you go silent, truly silent, not from spite, not from games, but from grounded purpose, everything changes. You stop playing her emotional tennis match. You stop swinging at every bait she throws. You become a man who responds to life, not reacts to her moods. She will feel it. That distance, that peace, that clarity, it haunts her. Because she's used to men unraveling, to men proving, pleading, posting. But you vanish into your mission. You hit the gym with a different fire. You build your business like you're at war. You read, you write, you grow. She scrolls through your photos, sees your progress, senses your peace, and suddenly her pride starts to suffocate her. She'll post something to get your attention. She'll try to bait you back into orbit. But the power shift already happened. You're not orbiting anymore. You're building your empire. You're mentoring younger men. You're making your mother proud. You're learning to fight, lead, plan, invest, speak, and above all, you're learning to be alone without being lonely. Because a man who's okay alone is the most dangerous man in the world. Not to her, to every lie she's believed about control, validation, and games. When you go silent and stay focused, she feels the weight of her own absence. She starts to question the same silence she once weaponized, and that's when you win. Not because she comes back, but because you don't need her to. You've outgrown the version of yourself who begged for love. You've killed the part of you that needed to be needed. Now you give love by choice, not by lack. You don't chase, you attract. Not because you read it in a book, but because you lived it. Your silence says everything. It says, I know my worth. It says, I have peace and you won't steal it. It says, I'm building something too powerful to pause for confusion. And maybe she'll call, maybe she'll apologize, maybe she won't. But by then, you'll be too far into your new life to care. You won't be healing from her. You'll be leading others. You'll be so focused on growth that her silence will feel like yesterday's problem. And that's the shift. That's the moment everything changes. Not when she texts, but when you realize you've stopped checking your phone. That's when her silence becomes your soundtrack. A reminder that you chose yourself, and you never looked back. Your silence is not just about relationships. It's about reclaiming your reality. Most men live in emotional slavery, not because they're weak, but because they were never taught how to protect their focus. Every message you wait for, every notification you obsess over, pulls you away from what matters. Real silence is the rejection of all noise that doesn't serve your future. When you stop reacting to her, you learn to start responding to life. And this is where the shift begins. You start analyzing what actually adds to your evolution. You look at your job. Is it building your skill set or just paying your bills? You examine your social circle. Are they leveling up or just talking about it? You take back every minute you used to waste checking her last scene, and you reinvest it into your health, into your clarity, into your future. Men are not taught to audit their energy. But when you do, you realize how much you've bled for people who wouldn't give a drop for you. This isn't bitterness. This is arithmetic. You've been overdrawn emotionally for years, not just by her, but by a society that rewards your silence only when it's submissive. But now your silence becomes sovereign. You create a fortress of focus around your goals. You wake up and track your habits like your life depends on them. You define your principles and live by them even when it's inconvenient. You don't just chase money, you study systems. You don't just lift weights, you master discipline. And then something changes. You no longer care who texts back, because your purpose starts speaking louder than her absence ever did. You see the madness clearly. The woman who played games was never the reward. She was the lesson, a mirror reflecting everything you neglected in yourself. The silence you gave her becomes the awareness you give yourself. And through that awareness, you heal. Not by forgetting her, but by remembering you. You were never broken, just distracted. And now you are focused. And that focus starts revealing everything you were blind to before. The way you talk, the way you walk, the content you consume, the standards you compromise, you clean it up. Every part. Not to impress anyone, but to become proud of yourself again. And it's in this pride that confidence is born. Not arrogance, but certainty. She may reach out, she may not. But you're not waiting. You're creating, building, planning, doing what men were built to do. Leave a mark. Build something that outlasts you. Because a man's value isn't found in her response, it's found in his legacy. And that legacy starts the moment you stop trying to convince people to care. Every silence you receive is an invitation to go deeper within yourself, to master yourself, to build yourself. And one day, long after she's faded from your memory, you'll look around and realize the best thing she ever did for you was walk away. Because that's when you stopped chasing comfort and started chasing your crown. Number 3. She can't stand that you're not chasing. She thought you'd come running. That's the playbook she's seen work 1,000 times. The moment she pulls away, the man runs toward her. The moment she stops replying, he doubles down. But this time, it's different. Because you didn't run. You didn't try to fix it. You didn't ask why. You just stopped. And that terrifies her. Because in her mind, your silence means one thing. You have options. Options scare her more than anything. It means you're not stuck. It means you're not emotionally enslaved. It means you might actually be moving on. Not pretending, truly moving on. And that's when the spiral begins. She expected your self-worth to crumble when she withheld her attention. She expected you to come knocking like the others. She expected control, but what she got was a mirror. Now she has to face the truth, that she was never the prize, that your love was never desperate, that you were whole before her and better after her absence. And this realization doesn't humble her, it enrages her. Because the man who doesn't chase is the man who forces her to question her illusion. It's not just that you're silent, it's that you seem unshaken, you seem focused, you seem free. And freedom looks a lot like disinterest to someone who feeds off attention. But it's not disinterest, it's detachment. You've detached from the illusion that she's the destination. You've detached from the lie that her validation is the measure of your masculinity. And when a woman sees a man detach, truly detach, not as a game, but as a lifestyle shift, she enters unfamiliar territory. The energy she once controlled no longer responds to her. Her triggers no longer work. So she starts fishing, lightly, subtly, then desperately. Maybe it's a hey message, maybe it's a story view, maybe it's gossip through friends, but none of it lands. Because she's no longer the center of your world, not because you hate her, but because you've seen your own potential and decided to protect it. And that's when she realizes she's the one who lost something, not you. Number 4. Your strength is in not reacting. Reactions are cheap. Everyone can react. Reaction is survival. But response, that's mastery. And sometimes the most powerful response is none at all. You've been taught that being a man means asserting, explaining, defending. But what if real strength is knowing when not to speak? When you're attacked with silence, with withdrawal, with manipulation, your instinct is to fix it. That's what most men do. They reach for validation like it's oxygen. But you've evolved past that point. You don't validate games. You don't entertain confusion. You don't feed energy into something that drains your soul, because you understand the law of value. If it costs your peace, it's too expensive. You understand that a man who reacts to every emotional shift is a man who is never in control of his life. She wants to see if you'll break, if you'll lash out, if you'll try to reason with her silence. But when you do none of that, when you stay poised, you break the cycle. You prove to yourself that you are no longer programmable. You're no longer reacting to temporary emotions. You're building a permanent legacy. And this shakes her, because she's used to power, emotional power. But you've stripped that power away by refusing to play. She posts, and you don't bite. She vanishes, and you don't chase. She hints, and you don't decode. Now she's left with the echo of her own behavior. And in that silence she hears the truth, that the only power she ever had was your reaction. And now that's gone. And you've become something different, something she doesn't know how to respond to, something she has to now admire from a distance. Because the strength you carry, that calm, silent, unwavering strength, that's rare, that's intimidating, that's unforgettable. Number 5. Women respect distance, not desperation. Women are not drawn to desperation. They don't crave emotional obedience. What they respect, what moves them, what stays in their mind long after you're gone, is distance. Not coldness, not silence as punishment, but space that speaks louder than your words ever could. It's not just the absence of contact, it's the presence of purpose. It's the man who keeps moving, who keeps building, who doesn't flinch when affection is withdrawn. He's not playing hard to get, he's just not easy to rattle. When you chase, you confirm to her that she has the power. When you beg, when you plead, when you try to explain your worth, you forfeit it in the same breath. Women can feel it. They can smell when a man is emotionally dependent. It's why she tests you, why she says one thing and does another, why she disappears for hours, then reappears like nothing happened. It's not always about deceit. Sometimes it's her trying to find your edges, to see where you bend. But when you stop chasing, not as a tactic, but as a lifestyle, something shifts. The world looks different. You don't rush replies. You don't refresh chats. You don't pause your purpose to guess someone else's emotions. You realize that your energy is sacred, that every moment spent overanalyzing her moods is a moment robbed from your empire. You start to see that the men who are respected, remembered, and chased are the ones who never made chasing part of their identity. Distance isn't avoidance. It's refinement. It tells her and the world that your life doesn't pause for uncertainty, that you're too committed to progress to be distracted by performance. And that distance, that gap between her and your world, that's what pulls her in. Not because she wants to possess you, but because she wants to understand you. You stop being accessible. You become intriguing. You stop being predictable. You become unforgettable. She may not like it. She may fight it. She may try to test it. But she respects it. Because deep down, every woman knows the man who doesn't chase is the man she can't replace. And in the space between your withdrawal and her realization, something starts to form. Clarity. She begins to recall the moments where she took your effort for granted, where she left you on read just to see if you'd double text, where she posted with intention, hoping you'd notice, wondering if you'd react. That attention, she once bathed in it. It was her mirror, her currency, her power. But now she scrolls through the feed, and your name doesn't light up. No likes, no DMS, no comments. You've vanished, not into silence, but into progress. She can't screenshot your absence. She can't spin it into a story, because now the narrative belongs to you. You're no longer part of her digital chess game. You're a ghost in the machine, untouchable, untraceable. And that absence, it becomes a presence, a haunting echo of the man who once showed up with open arms and now shows up in no place at all. It's not that you became cold. It's that you became clear. You saw what was happening, not just in her actions, but in yourself. You saw how easily your focus shifted away from your goals, how quickly your self-worth attached itself to her responses, how far you drifted from who you were becoming, and so you reclaimed it. Not with a speech, not with a final message, but with silence and distance. And the distance wasn't a punishment. It was a declaration. It said, I'm not waiting to be chosen. It said, this space belongs to someone who values it. It said, if you want access, you have to bring peace, not performance. Because in a world of instant validation and constant attention, distance has become the rarest form of power. And the man who controls that power, he doesn't need to chase. He is the chase. He's not glued to his phone. He's glued to his blueprint. He's not studying her stories. He's studying his next move. And every day she doesn't hear from him, her fantasy of control starts to dissolve. Because he was never obsessed. He was observant. He saw the shift, and instead of reacting, he recentered. And now she's left with questions. Who's replaced her spot? What's changed? How is he so calm? And the truth is simple. He's not moved on to someone else. He's moved back to himself. the version that dreams, that creates, that leads. And in that self-return, he's become untouchable. She may never say it, she may never admit it, but she feels it in every post she shares that doesn't get your attention, in every night she refreshes a chat you've archived. And that feeling, it's not jealousy, it's respect, earned not by playing games, but by playing life at the highest level. Because she knows now that while she had your presence, she never had your potential. But now that you've pulled back, now that she's met your absence, she's seen what real value feels like when it's gone. And she respects you more than she ever told you when you were right there trying to earn it. Because now, you're not just the man who didn't chase. You're the man who became too powerful to ignore. The man whose name echoes in silence, louder than any love song. The man whose distance said more than any paragraph. You never had to explain yourself. You just had to disappear and evolve. Number 6. Be the man she can't manipulate. There comes a moment when she realizes her silence doesn't shake you. Her beauty doesn't distract you. Her games don't move you. That moment? That's when the illusion breaks. Because a man she can't manipulate is the rarest man she'll ever meet. She's used to getting her way. With a look, with a delay, with an unanswered message. But you don't bite. You don't need her approval to move forward. You don't chase when she steps back. You don't flinch when she withdraws affection. And that unnerves her. Because her power never came from who she is. It came from how men responded. And now she meets a man who doesn't respond, who simply decides. A man who doesn't argue, who simply walks away. A man who doesn't try to fix, who simply moves forward. Now she's not in control. She's in reflection. And that's where growth either begins or ends. But for you, it's never been about her. It's been about you. Becoming the kind of man who isn't moved by outside noise. Becoming the man who holds his own truth. Because you've learned you can't be manipulated when your identity isn't tied to validation. When you no longer seek comfort in chaos. When your emotions are not for sale. You become immune to her tactics. You don't get pulled into her silence. You don't decode passive aggression. You don't run in circles chasing closeness that's constantly out of reach. You just rise. You just build. You just become. And in that rise, she either joins or watches. Either way, you're not adjusting to be understood. You're not waiting to be accepted. You're not changing to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. You've already seen your own potential. You've already decided that your value doesn't bend for temporary affection. You've already built a life so full that games become irrelevant. Because the man who can't be manipulated isn't cold. He's clear, and clarity is the death of confusion, the end of loops. The moment she realizes she either respects the man you've become or loses access to him forever. That's when she knows. She's not dealing with a boy who needs her. She's dealing with a man she can't reach through control. And that kind of man, that's the one she remembers. That's the one she fears. That's the one she respects for life. And that fear she feels now isn't about losing a text thread. It's about losing something rare. A man she couldn't manipulate. A presence she couldn't control. A standard she couldn't lower. Because every time she pulled away and you stayed grounded, every time she sent a signal and you stayed silent, every time she tried to make you flinch and you stood still, she started seeing you as something different, not a fallback, not a fool, but a foundation. And foundations don't chase storms, they weather them, they stand, and when the chaos passes, they're still there, unbroken, unchanged, unmoved. She tells herself she's in control, but every post you don't see, every update you don't react to, every silence you don't interrupt, it's a crack in that illusion. Because what she really wants but won't say is to be with a man who doesn't bow to pressure. who doesn't fold when ignored, who doesn't ask for love like it's a favor. She wants to feel safe, not just emotionally, but spiritually. And that safety only comes from a man whose center can't be shaken by feminine chaos. So while she's busy crafting appearances, you've been crafting character. While she's measuring your reaction, you've been measuring your results. And now she realizes the window has closed. She thought she could come back. She thought you'd wait. She thought she could reappear and find you where she left you, wanting, wondering, weakened. But now you're gone. Not in distance, but in essence. You're no longer available to the dynamic she once controlled. You're not bitter. You're not angry. You're just evolved. You've become a man she no longer recognizes. And that's exactly what makes her feel it all. Regret, respect, reverence, and the realization that men like you don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They rise. They transcend. And they never come back the same. That's why she's quiet now. Not in power, but in reflection. Because the silence she once used as a weapon, you turned into armor. She knows the truth. You were the lesson. Not the one who begged, pleaded, or convinced, but the one who became so whole, her absence felt like peace. So she can't manipulate you anymore. Because you've elevated beyond emotional warfare. You've exited the game entirely. And from now on, your standards are your shield. Your purpose is your compass. Your peace is your power. And her approval, it's no longer your finish line. It's just background noise. She will think of you long after the silence, long after the stories fade. Not because you chased, but because you didn't. Not because you fought for her, but because you fought for yourself. She will remember the one man who never begged, the one who vanished and never came back smaller. You were never just a chapter. You were the lesson she thought she'd never have to learn. And now, she carries your silence like a weight she'll never admit is there. But you're not looking back, because the man you've become isn't waiting to be seen. He's too focused on building a life worth watching. If this message spoke to your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Drop "I am untouchable" in the comments. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you believe men deserve truth and clarity.